My phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, the screen flashing a name I'd come to dread, Amanda. I hesitated, fingers brushing the cool granite, sensing the call wasn't about Sunday dinner plans. At 35, I'd learned to trust my gut, a lesson carved into me by my grandmother's wisdom and a decade of balancing ledgers. What could my sister-in-law want now, barely 3 months after marrying my brother James? I answered, and her voice, sharp with glee, sliced through the speaker, announcing a betrayal so bold it could unravel my future. Or so she thought. I used your college fund for my dream house, Amanda purred, her words dripping with satisfaction, like she'd just won a game I didn't know we were playing. $800,000, Sophia, gone to something worth it. You're never going back to school anyway. Time to grow up. I gripped the counter, the Chicago skyline glinting through my apartment window, a silent witness to my rising pulse. My grandparents' gift, that sacred fund meant to carry me to medical school, was stolen. My dream of becoming a doctor, nurtured through years of late-night study while working as an accountant, dismissed as childish. Yet my voice stayed steady, a trick I'd mastered in boardrooms. Interesting, I said, pausing to let her squirm. How exactly did you manage that? Amanda laughed, clearly expecting tears or rage, her disappointment palpable through the phone. Oh, it was easy. James still had access from when your grandparents set it up. All I needed was his signature. The house is gorgeous, by the way, way better than some silly dream of playing doctor. Interesting, I said, pausing to let her squirm. How exactly did you manage that? Amanda laughed, clearly expecting tears or rage, her disappointment palpable through the phone. Oh, it was easy. James still had access from when your grandparents set it up. All I needed was his signature. The house is gorgeous, by the way, way better than some silly dream of playing doctor. I could picture her in her designer-clad condo, probably checking her reflection in one of those oversized mirrors she loved. She'd swept into our lives 6 months ago, a hurricane of charm and ambition, convincing James she was his soulmate after 2 weeks. I'd seen through her from the start, her 2 perfect smiles, her questions about family finances. But James, ever the dreamer, was too enchanted to listen. Thanks for letting me know, I said, opening my laptop with a calm that belied the storm inside. I hope you enjoy the house. Amanda's voice spiked with frustration. That's it? No crying? No begging? Come on, Sophia, where's the drama? I ended the call without a word, her taunt echoing as I pulled up an email from my attorney. There it was, the confirmation I'd been waiting for. The transfer Amanda and James attempted had been blocked. The funds safely moved to a new account 2 weeks ago. My grandmother's voice rang in my head, as clear as when she'd taught me to scrutinize bank statements at 12. Trust your instincts, but verify your accounts. I leaned back, the city's hum filtering through the glass. At 35, I wasn't the naive dreamer Amanda assumed. I'd spent a decade building my career, quietly completing medical school prerequisites, each step a brick in the path my grandparents envisioned when they left me that $800,000. Amanda's questions at Sunday dinners, too detailed, too frequent, had tipped me off. She thought she'd outsmarted me, crushed my dream with a signature and a smug call. She had no idea she'd walked into a trap I'd set long before her hurricane hit our family. My fingers hovered over my phone, ready to call my attorney, but I paused, letting the moment settle. Amanda wanted drama? I'd give her something better: silence, strategy, and the slow unraveling of her lies. Friday was 3 days away, when her realtor would expect the money. I wondered how she'd explain its absence, but more than that, I felt the weight of my grandmother's legacy, urging me to protect what was mine. The silence after Amanda's call was a battlefield, charged with the thrill of a plan unfolding. My laptop screen glowed with the attorney's email, a digital fortress guarding my $800,000 college fund, safe from Amanda's grasping hands. At 35, I'd learned that victory begins in the shadows, in the quiet moments where strategy takes root. My grandmother's lessons had armored me for this, but as I reached for my phone to call Linda, my attorney, a flicker of anger, at Amanda's audacity, at James's blindness, threatened my calm. What would Amanda do when she realized her scheme had failed? I leaned into that question, ready to turn her arrogance into her undoing. I dialed Linda's number, my hand steady despite the pulse of adrenaline. Sophia? I was expecting you, Linda said, her voice crisp with the efficiency of someone who thrived on unraveling fraud. Amanda's call came then? I confirmed, picturing Linda in her Chicago office, files stacked like sentinels. She detailed the evidence. Amanda and James had tried to transfer the funds, but my preemptive move 2 weeks ago, rerouting the money to a secure account, had stopped them cold. Every attempt is documented, Linda assured me. Timestamps, forged documents, even James's signature, which looks coerced. We've got her, Sophia. Do you want to press charges now? I paused, the city's dusk painting my apartment in shades of amber. Not yet, I replied. Let's see what Amanda does when the transfer fails. I want her next move on record. Hanging up, I felt the weight of my decision settle. Pressing charges would be easy, but patience would be devastating. Amanda craved drama. I'd starve her of it, letting her overconfidence dig her deeper. I crossed to my home office, the hardwood floor cool under my bare feet, and opened the bottom drawer of my filing cabinet. Inside was a folder labeled Grandma's Letters, a treasure trove of wisdom from the woman who'd built her accounting firm from nothing. I pulled out her last letter, written weeks before she passed 2 years ago, the paper soft from countless readings. My dearest Sophia, it began, her elegant script a lifeline. I'm leaving you this money because I believe in your dream. Medicine is your calling, not just a career. Don't let anyone tell you it's too late at 35 or too hard. And most importantly, don't let anyone take this from you. You're smarter than they think. I traced her signature, a pang of loss mingling with gratitude. Grandma had taught me to spot discrepancies in ledgers and people, her voice guiding me when Amanda's questions about my fund turned probing. That foresight had saved me, but the letter's words burned brighter now. My dream wasn't just about me. It was her legacy, a promise to heal others as she'd healed our family's financial chaos. I tucked the letter back, my resolve hardening. Amanda thought she'd stolen my future, but she'd only awakened the part of me Grandma had trained, a quiet warrior who fought with precision, not noise. My phone lay silent, but I knew James would reach out soon, caught in Amanda's web of lies. I could almost hear his voice, earnest and oblivious, asking why I wasn't thrilled about their new house. The thought of his betrayal, however unwitting, stung, but I pushed it aside. James wasn't the enemy. He was a pawn, just as Amanda had planned. I glanced at my laptop, the attorney's email still open, a reminder of the trap closing around her. The Chicago skyline twinkled beyond my window, a constellation of possibilities. Friday, when the realtor expected the funds, was 2 days away. Amanda's smugness would curdle into panic, and I'd be ready, documenting every misstep. Grandma's words echoed, "Sometimes the best revenge is letting people think they've won." I smiled, a spark of anticipation kindling. Amanda had no idea the quiet accountant she'd underestimated was already 3 steps ahead. Her dream not just intact, but fiercer than ever. The Chicago night pressed against my window, a canvas of stars and city lights, but my focus was inward, locked on the digital evidence piling up against Amanda. After my call with Linda, the air in my apartment felt charged, like the calm before a storm breaks. At 35, I'd learned that truth is a weapon best wielded with precision, and as I opened Linda's latest email, I felt the weight of that power. Amanda thought she'd outplayed me, but every move she made was a breadcrumb leading to her ruin. My dream of becoming a doctor, fueled by my grandparents' $800,000 fund, was not just safe, it was a fire she'd unknowingly stoked. Linda's email was a masterclass in meticulousness, a litany of Amanda's missteps. I scrolled through attachments, bank records showing 3 separate attempts to access my account, each flagged by the fraud department, scanned documents with James's signature, its loops and angles subtly off, betraying forgery, and audio files of Amanda's calls to the bank, her voice syrupy as she tried to impersonate me. "She's bold," Linda had written, "but sloppy." I leaned back, the leather of my chair creaking softly, and let that sink in. Amanda's arrogance had blinded her to the paper trail she'd left, each piece a nail in the coffin of her scheme. My fingers itched to forward everything to the police, but I held back. Friday's deadline loomed, and I wanted her to feel the ground shift beneath her feet first. My phone buzzed, shattering the quiet. A text from James. "Hey, sis. Amanda's super excited about the house we're buying. I know the money was for your school, but you've got a solid job, right? Family helps family." My chest tightened, not from anger, but from the ache of his naivety. James, my sweet, reckless brother, always chasing dreams that crumbled, get-rich-quick schemes, impulsive investments, had fallen for Amanda's charm like a moth to a flame. I stared at the screen, his words a plea wrapped in ignorance. Another text followed. "The realtor needs the money by Friday. You're not mad, are you?" I started typing, then stopped. Words wouldn't wake him, only the truth would. I set the phone down, choosing silence, letting Amanda's lies unravel on their own. The silence didn't last. My laptop pinged with a new email, this one from the medical school admissions office. "Dear Ms. Sophia Parker," it read, "we are pleased to confirm your interview for next week." My breath caught, a spark of joy cutting through the tension. For years I'd chipped away at prerequisites, burning midnight oil after long days at the accounting firm. The $800,000 wasn't just money, it was time, freedom to study, to step into the life I'd envisioned since I was a girl watching doctors save lives on TV. I saved the email, a lifeline to my future, and felt a surge of defiance. Amanda thought she could derail me, but every forged signature, every smug word, only sharpened my resolve. I stood, stretching, and crossed to the window. The Chicago skyline pulsed with life, a reminder that my world was bigger than Amanda's schemes. Linda's evidence was a net tightening around her, but James's text gnawed at me. He wasn't just a victim. He was my brother, the one who'd fought off bullies when we were kids, who'd held my hand through our parents' divorce. Saving him meant shattering his illusion, and that hurt more than Amanda's betrayal. I glanced at my phone, still silent, and imagined Amanda tomorrow, checking her bank account, her smugness curdling as the transfer failed. Friday was one day away, and the realtor's deadline would be her reckoning. My grandmother's voice whispered in my mind, "Let them think they've beaten you, until they realize they've beaten themselves." I turned back to my laptop, the evidence glowing on the screen, and felt a quiet thrill. Amanda had underestimated the accountant who balanced ledgers and dreams with equal precision, and soon she'd learn what it cost to cross me. Friday morning broke with a storm of texts from Amanda, each one a crack in her polished facade. My phone buzzed relentlessly as I sipped coffee in my Chicago apartment, the skyline gray with impending rain. "The bank says the transfer failed. What did you do?" Her first message spat, followed by, "You think you're so clever, don't you?" And finally, "James is devastated. How could you?" At 35, I'd learned to savor the moment when a liar's world begins to fray, and Amanda's desperation was a symphony. After yesterday's quiet, reviewing Linda's damning evidence and securing my medical school interview, I was ready to pull the thread that would unravel her lies, starting with the brother she'd manipulated. I opened Linda's latest email, a treasure trove of evidence, forged signatures, bank call recordings, and now, a detailed log of Amanda's frantic attempts to override the blocked transfer. Each click of my mouse revealed her unraveling, her calls to the bank growing shrill as the realtor's deadline loomed. My calm was a shield, forged by years of balancing ledgers and dreams, but beneath it, a spark of anger flared. Not at Amanda, but at James, who'd let her wield his trust like a weapon. My phone buzzed again, this time a call from him. "Sophia, we need to talk," he said, his voice tight with anxiety. "Amanda says there's a problem with the transfer." I leaned against the counter, the granite cool under my palms. "There is," I replied, my tone even. "Would you like to know what happened, or keep pretending your wife didn't try to steal my $800,000? Silence stretched, heavy with the weight of truth dawning. "Come over," he said finally. "Please, I need to understand." An hour later, I sat in James's living room, my laptop open on the coffee table, the air thick with tension. Amanda paced behind the couch, her designer heels clicking on the hardwood floors they'd installed last month, a monument to her greed. James sat hunched, his eyes darting between us. "As you can see," I began, pulling up the forged documents. "These signatures don't match your usual handwriting, James. The bank's fraud department spotted it immediately." Amanda's pacing stopped, her face a mask of barely contained fury. "You had no right to move that money," she burst out. "It was just sitting there while you play pretend with medical school." I raised an eyebrow, my voice steady. "Needed it for what? A 5-bedroom house you can't afford? More designer clothes?" I paused, then dropped the bombshell. "Or to cover the gambling debts you've been hiding from James." Her face went pale, a deer caught in the headlights of her lies. I opened another document, a credit report Linda had secured. 3 maxed-out credit cards, 2 personal loans, and regular withdrawals at the Golden Palace Casino, totaling over $200,000. "Did you wonder why she was so interested in my college fund, James?" I asked. My gaze locked on him. He turned to Amanda, his voice low. "What gambling debts?" Amanda stammered, her composure shattering. "It's not what you think. I had a system. I was going to win it all back." James's eyes widened, betrayal carving lines into his face. "You forged my signature," he said, his voice rising. "You tried to steal from my sister." Amanda's hands flailed, grasping for excuses. "The house was going to fix everything. We could have remortgaged it." James stood, his frame trembling. "Get out," he whispered, then roared, "Get out!" Amanda froze, mascara smudging as panic overtook her. "Baby, please," she started, but James pointed to the door. "You've been gambling our savings." "You lied to me. Get out." She grabbed her purse, her heels clicking a frantic retreat as the door slammed behind her. James collapsed onto the couch, his head in his hands, the weight of his mistake crushing him. I closed my laptop, the evidence no longer needed, and moved to sit beside him. "I'm so sorry, Sophia," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I should have listened when you said something was off." I touched his shoulder, my anger softening into sorrow. Amanda had played her game, but James was the one left broken. Outside, thunder rumbled, mirroring the storm in his heart. My phone buzzed, another email from Linda, likely more evidence. But I ignored it. The trap was sprung, and Amanda's lies lay in ruins. Now, I had to help James pick up the pieces before the law closed in. The echo of Amanda's slammed door lingered in James's living room, a punctuation mark on her expulsion, but the real storm was yet to come. As I sat beside my brother, his shoulders shaking with the weight of betrayal, I felt the tide turning, not just for us, but for every life Amanda had tried to ruin. At 35, I'd learned that justice isn't loud, it's methodical, a ledger balanced by truth. After yesterday's confrontation, where Amanda's lies crumbled under the weight of forged signatures and hidden debts, I knew the next step wasn't just about saving my $800,000 college fund. It was about ensuring she couldn't shatter another family. My phone buzzed with a text from Linda, my attorney, and I sensed the final act was about to begin. James lifted his head, his eyes red but resolute. "She planned this from the start, didn't she?" he asked, voice raw. I nodded, pulling an envelope from my bag. "These are texts Amanda sent to friends, bragging about marrying into money," I said, showing him printouts Linda had secured. "Bank statements with transfers to offshore accounts, casino receipts predating your wedding." His jaw tightened as he flipped through pages, each one a shard of Amanda's deceit. "There's more," I added, revealing a police report from 3 years ago. Another marriage, another theft, another family left broken. "She changed her name and started fresh with you as her target." James's voice hardened. "Press charges. All of it. I'll testify. Provide whatever you need. She has to be stopped." I hugged him, feeling his resolve bolster my own. Later that day, Linda called with news that quickened my pulse. Amanda had been arrested at O'Hare Airport, attempting to flee with a fake passport. "She's not just a one-trick pony," Linda said. "We've contacted her previous victims. 3 other families, different names each time. Amanda Wilson, Amy Walker, Anna Wells. They're ready to testify." I stood in my Chicago apartment, the skyline a stark silhouette against the dusk, and felt a surge of purpose. My grandparents' fund wasn't just my dream. It was a symbol of trust, and Amanda's greed had awakened a collective fight to protect it. Weeks later, the courthouse was a crucible of justice, packed with faces Amanda hadn't expected. I sat beside James, his posture straighter than it had been since her betrayal. 3 other families filled the benches, their stories eerily similar to ours. Amanda was led in, her designer flair replaced by plain court attire, her eyes darting as she registered her past victims. The smug smile from her phone call was gone, replaced by a desperate calculation that found no escape. Linda presented our case with surgical precision, forged signatures, bank call recordings, the $200,000 gambling debt, and a pattern of fraud spanning multiple states. Each document projected on the courtroom screen was a blow, stripping away Amanda's lies. James took the stand, his voice steady despite the weight of his words. "She made me believe I'd found true love," he said, facing the judge. "Instead, I nearly helped her steal my sister's future. That $800,000 wasn't just money, it was my grandmother's legacy, Sophia's dream to save lives as a doctor." His testimony cut through the room, raw and unyielding. When my turn came, I stood, my white coat folded in my bag, a silent promise to my future. "I was fortunate," I began, my gaze sweeping from Amanda to the judge. "My grandmother taught me to protect myself, to document everything. Today isn't about revenge, it's about ensuring Amanda can't destroy another family." Other victims echoed us, their stories weaving a net that trapped her. The judge's verdict was swift, her gavel a thunderclap, guilty on all counts. 5 years in prison, restitution to all victims, no early release. Amanda's composure shattered as officers cuffed her. "You think this changes anything?" she spat, glaring at me. "You'll fail at medical school and I'll be out before you finish your first year." I smiled, my voice calm but edged with steel. "I start next month. Your attempt to steal my dream only made me work harder. Thank you, Amanda. You showed me what I'm capable of." Her eyes widened, the realization of her defeat sinking in as she was led away. Outside, the Chicago air was crisp, the courthouse steps buzzing with the other family's quiet relief. James turned to me, his face softer, the shadows lifting. "She never loved me, did she?" he asked. I shook my head gently. "She's a con artist, James. That's not on you." He nodded, pulling out the engagement ring. A fake, like her promises. "Sell it," I said. "Start fresh." He hesitated, then pressed it into my hand. "No, for your school fund. Turn her lies into something good." I took it, feeling the weight of our shared victory. Amanda's game was over, but ours was just beginning. The courthouse steps buzzed with quiet victory, but as James pressed Amanda's fake engagement ring into my hand, I felt a deeper triumph bloom. The Chicago wind carried the weight of yesterday's verdict, Amanda's 5-year sentence, her schemes reduced to ashes, but this moment was about more than justice. At 35, I'd learned that the truest wins are those that heal, and as I looked at my brother, his eyes clearer than they'd been in months, I knew we were reclaiming something Amanda could never touch. Outside my apartment that evening, the skyline glittered, a tapestry of dreams unbroken. I sat at my desk, my grandmother's photo before me, her steady gaze a beacon. Beside it lay my medical school acceptance letter and the white coat I'd wear next month, embroidered with Sophia Parker, medical student. The $800,000 fund, safe in its secure account, was more than money. It was Grandma's faith, now fueling my path to save lives. Amanda had thought she could snuff out that spark, but her betrayal had only fanned it into a blaze. I traced the coat's stitching, feeling the weight of every late-night study session, every calculated step that led to her downfall. My phone buzzed, a text from James. "Thank you for never giving up on me, even when I couldn't see the truth." He'd filed for divorce that morning, severing Amanda's last hold on him. "Starting fresh," he added, a hint of the brother who'd once chased dreams with me. I smiled, typing back, "You've got this." His healing had begun, and though scars remained, they'd fade with time. The ring, worthless as Amanda's promises, sat on my desk. I'd sell it, adding its meager value to my fund, turning one last lie into a step toward my future. Beyond my window, Chicago hummed, oblivious to Amanda, now confined to a cell, her dreams of easy money extinguished. She'd underestimated the quiet accountant, the sister who'd learned from a grandmother's wisdom to guard what mattered. I stood, slipping on my white coat, its weight a promise. My journey to become Dr. Parker was just beginning, each step a testament to resilience. Amanda's 5 years would pass in shadows, while I'd walk in light, healing others as I'd helped heal James. I hung the coat by my door, ready for the days ahead. Grandma's words echoed, "The best victories show others it's never too late to stand up." Amanda's defeat was a lesson, but my triumph, woven from trust, strategy, and an unyielding dream, was a legacy. As the city glowed, I felt her pride and mine intertwine. The quiet one had won, not just for herself, but for every dreamer who dares to rise.